My name is Cami Ellison. I'm 36 years old. And this is the story of how I nearly died, alone, forgotten, discarded, and how I used that pain to rewrite everything. Not just my future. But theirs too. The last thing I remember before the darkness swallowed me was the way the conference room lights buzzed and flickered, like they were laughing at me. My hands gripped the edges of the podium, my nails digging into the lacquered wood as if that could somehow keep me upright. But the world was already tilting. Spinning. Mocking. I heard my voice falter mid-sentence. As you can see from our third-quarter projections, my words blurred into a hollow echo. I blinked rapidly. The graphs on the screen melted into smears of color. Faces in the boardroom became clay-like, distorted. My heart raced like a war drum, pounding harder and harder until it skipped, once, then again. Then everything turned black. A scream. A blur of chaos. Someone yelling to call 911. I think it was Mary, my assistant. I remember her mascara running down her cheeks like twin rivers. I tried to speak, to tell them I was scared, but my mouth wouldn't work. The last thing I managed to whisper, barely audible over the panic, was, "Call my mom." I woke up in a sterile ICU room, unable to move. Tubes everywhere. Monitors beeping in a rhythm that wasn't mine anymore. I could feel the weight of mortality pressing down like a slab of marble. I blinked through the blur, the cold air gnawing at my skin, and rasped to the nurse, "My phone. Please." She hesitated but placed it gently in my hand. I texted, I called. My mother. My father. Even my younger sister, Celeste. Straight to voicemail. Over and over. Desperation seeped into every tap of the keyboard. "Mom, I'm in the ICU. Heart attack. Going into surgery. Please come. I'm scared. Dad, I need you. Please pick up. Celeste, I might not make it. Can you come?" No one answered. I went under with the feeling that I was already forgotten. When I came to, the pain was dull but persistent. The kind that reminds you you're still alive, but just barely. I was alone in that hospital room, save for the hiss of machines and the silent, ever-blinking monitor keeping time with my stubborn, broken heart. It wasn't until 3 a.m. that someone spoke. "The nurse said your mom left a voicemail," Mary whispered gently. "Want to hear it?" I nodded. Her voice came through clear. Ice cold. "Cami, we got your messages, but Celeste is having a breakdown about her new condo. The paint color is all wrong and she's hysterical. You know how fragile she is. If she's feeling better tomorrow, maybe we'll swing by. Love you." I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling. That moment didn't just hurt, it broke something permanent inside me. A clean, decisive snap. This wasn't the first time. Christmas, just a few months ago, I had quietly paid off $60,000 of Celeste's debt. She bought herself a Chanel handbag with my money and told everyone how lucky she was to have a sister who owed her. When I'd paid off my mother's second mortgage 5 years ago, she called me dutiful. Not grateful. Just dutiful. I had always been the reliable one. The background character in their glamorous little drama. Not anymore. I looked at Mary. "Call Lucas." She blinked. "Your lawyer?" "Yes. Tell him to bring everything." It took him 2 hours. He walked in looking sharper than usual, briefcase in hand, a furrow in his brow. He didn't ask what happened, he didn't need to. He knew. He'd seen the bruises that didn't leave marks. The endless sacrifices. The silence. "I'm ready," I told him. "Let's do it." "Are you sure?" he asked. I pointed to the beeping machine. "That thing says I'm alive." "So I'm sure." He placed a stack of documents on the tray table beside my bed. "The will is at the top," he said. "You can start there." I signed every page like I was writing a new scripture. One where I was no longer a sacrifice. I removed my parents from my estate. I shut down every account connected to Celeste, tuition, rent, car payments. All of it. I listed the Naples vacation home for sale. The same one they loved to show off every summer to their country club friends. They never paid a dime for it. I had owned it, secretly. Paid for in full. Title in my name. They never even asked. Lucas watched me carefully as I signed. You know this will crush them. They already crushed me, I said, not even blinking. They just didn't notice. I opened the family group chat. It was still filled with pictures of Celeste crying in front of an olive green wall. My fingers moved without hesitation. Still in ICU after emergency surgery. Glad to know paint colors matter more than your daughter's life. Then I muted the chat. The phone exploded. My mother. My father. Celeste. All suddenly remembered I existed. Cammy, don't be dramatic. We're dealing with a lot right now. Celeste is fragile, you know this. We'll come by tomorrow. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. They weren't coming for me. They were coming for what I gave them. I turned to Lucas. Keep going. We're not finished yet. And we weren't. Not by a long shot. The morning after signing away my family's claim to everything I had built, the sun dared to rise like nothing had changed. But everything had. Lucas sat beside me, flipping through the remaining documents with calm precision. Here's the breakdown of the financial support you've given Celeste over the last decade. Shall I read them out? No need, I said. Just end it. He hesitated. It's a lot. I know. That's why I want it over. Celeste had never earned a single dollar of her own. When she dropped out of college, I was the one who paid off her loans so she wouldn't default. When she totaled her first car, I replaced it with another. When she couldn't function without therapy, I covered every bill, even though she only went twice before switching to healing crystals and Instagram affirmations. She had been a full-time dependent dressed up as a free spirit. Now, her lifeline was cut. Freeze it all, I told Lucas. Every card, every transfer, every fallback account. He nodded. It's done. I closed my eyes and leaned back, listening to the monitor. For the first time in years, the sound didn't feel like an obligation. It felt like a boundary. My heartbeat, not theirs. By the afternoon, the group chat had become a storm of passive-aggressive fury. Cammy, I'm trying to be patient here, but you're making it really hard. This behavior is hurting Celeste deeply. Dad, let's be reasonable. Don't let your emotions dictate your finances. Celeste, wow. Just wow. So now I'm the villain because I needed support? Maybe try therapy instead of cutting off your family? They didn't know the half of it. Lucas brought in the paperwork for the Naples villa next. I smiled as I signed the listing agreement. That one's going to sting, he said. They've been telling people it was theirs for years. He chuckled. Well, I guess they'll need to update their lies. The best part? I didn't need to say a word. The bank notifications would start rolling in by morning. One by one, their cards would decline. Celeste would be stuck explaining to her hairstylist why she couldn't pay for a $600 balayage. My mother would find her donation to the garden gala bounced. My father's club fees, frozen. Lucas looked at me with a hint of concern. What happens if they come here? They won't. He raised a brow. They're cowards, I explained. They don't show up unless there's something to gain. He didn't argue. That night, I got another voicemail from my mother. Her voice was higher pitched than usual, the kind of tone she used when trying to appear composed while falling apart. Cammy, I saw some of the notifications. I don't understand what's going on. You've always been the responsible one. I don't know what's gotten into you. Celeste is inconsolable. She threw her phone into the pool this morning. Please call me back. Let's talk this out. Talk? I wanted to scream. Where was this talk when I was flatlining in the emergency room? Where was this concern when I begged them to come? Instead of replying, I sent a short message to Lucas. Let's finalize the revocation of power of attorney. I want zero ties. Lucas understood. 3 days after surgery, just as I had predicted, they finally showed up. The door creaked open to reveal my mother, dressed like she was attending brunch at the plaza, cream silk blouse, diamond earrings, not a strand of hair out of place. My father followed behind like a tired executive dragged into HR. Oh, sweetheart, my mother said, her eyes scanning the room and immediately wrinkling her nose. This lighting is awful for your complexion. I stared at her, my face pale and sunken from days in ICU. Yeah, cardiac arrest does that. My father cleared his throat awkwardly. Let's not be so dramatic, Cammy. 3 days, I said. It's been 3 days since surgery. But I guess the paint drama took priority. My mother faltered. Celeste really wanted to be here, but the kitchen ceiling in her new condo was done incorrectly. She's devastated. I pressed the morphine button. Not because I needed the medication, I just needed the silence. Is she here? I asked, looking around theatrically. She's still dealing with the contractor, my father said quickly. It's a mess. You know how emotional she can be. I tilted my head. So emotional, she couldn't call? Text? Anything? My mother pursed her lips. Cammy, don't be cruel. Cruel? I laughed, dry and sharp. I almost died. I was begging for someone to come. And you chose olive paint and a crooked ceiling. Then, the door burst open. And in she came. Celeste. She wore a flowing white dress, oversized sunglasses, and held an iced latte like it was part of her soul. Her tone was sharp the moment she opened her mouth. Are you seriously doing this right now? She snapped. I just saw your message in the group chat. How could you air all this in front of people? I'm going through a crisis. I looked at her, stunned for a moment. A crisis? She scoffed. My identity is tied to that apartment. The contractor ruined it. My heart literally stopped, I replied calmly. Your contractor ruined your ceiling. You always make everything about yourself, she spat. God, Cammy. You're so selfish. Lucas stepped in, smooth as ever, briefcase in hand. Good afternoon. My mother's voice shot up 3 notches in artificial charm. Lucas, darling. So lovely to see you. Thank goodness someone level-headed is here. Lucas offered her a tight smile. I'm not here socially, Mrs. Ellison. I'm here as Cammy's attorney. Silence. My father stiffened. Attorney? Why? I handed Lucas the file. He opened it. This is the revised will. All estate assets removed from your names. Financial support terminated. Property listings active. The Naples villa will be sold by end of month. You can't be serious, my mother whispered, voice trembling. Oh, I'm very serious, I said. Turns out, flatlining gives you clarity. Emily's mouth hung open, her iced latte now sweating in her hand. You're punishing us, she barked. For one little mistake? This isn't punishment, I said coolly. It's reality. You're no longer my responsibility. My mother's voice cracked. You'll regret this, Cammy. I placed the signed pen on the table beside me. No, Mother. I regret waiting this long. Emily stormed out first, her heels clacking down the sterile hallway like angry punctuation. My mother wasn't far behind, her white-knuckled grip on her designer handbag revealing more emotion than her words ever had. My father lingered for a moment, his eyes searching mine. "Princess," he said, a title he hadn't used since I was a child. "This isn't who you are." I didn't flinch. "No, Dad. This is exactly who I've become." He blinked, clearly not expecting that. And then they were gone. Lucas remained by my side, his presence steady. "That went as expected." "Maybe worse," I muttered, still staring at the blank TV screen in the room. "Maybe exactly right." He nodded slowly. "They'll fight it. Let them. I've signed everything. Legally, they're out." "You're not worried they'll retaliate publicly?" "I hope they do." I gave a cold smile. Let them dig their grave on a live feed. It was strange, the way the rage left my body not with fire but with ice. I didn't burn with fury. I chilled with resolve. And I wasn't done yet. 2 days after their visit, the anonymous email came. No subject line. No greeting. Just a file attachment titled medical_disclosure_rg.pdf. I clicked it, expecting spam. But what I saw sent a ripple of dread through me, deeper than anything I had felt in the hospital. Robert Gibson, hereditary cardiac arrhythmia diagnosis, 1986. Emily Gibson, monitored annually since 1999. No records of cardiac monitoring for Cami Ellison. I blinked. Once. Twice. My throat tightened. My fingers shook as I dialed Lucas. "I need you to verify something right now," I told him, my voice paper thin. Within 20 minutes, he called me back. "Cami, it's legit." My blood ran cold. "All this time?" I whispered. "They knew?" "They knew. Since you were a child. But they never once tested me. Not once. They monitored her. Not me." A pause. "There's more," Lucas said. "You're not biologically their daughter." The room began to spin again, not like before, not with panic. This was different. A surreal freefall. "What do you mean?" I managed. He spoke carefully. "You were legally adopted at 2 years old. Your biological mother was Margaret's younger sister, Sarah. She died in a car crash. Your family took you in. But they never told me?" "No," he said gently. "Because you weren't the heir. You were the backup." It felt like someone had taken a chisel to my identity and cracked it clean in two. "They used me," I whispered. "They didn't even care enough to tell me I was adopted." "They didn't protect you," Lucas said. "They protected Emily." I looked down at the tubes in my arm, the slow drip of clear liquid. My heart had stopped. And no one had warned me that it might. "They let me live as a ticking time bomb," I said. "I'll gather everything," Lucas promised. "We'll go public. Medical negligence. Concealment. Emotional abuse. It's all here." I didn't hesitate. "Do it." That night, I didn't sleep. I sifted through every memory, every small moment that had once confused me. Being the only child told to walk herself to the clinic for a fever. Watching Emily get picked up by ambulances for mild migraines. The way Mom always said our bloodline like I wasn't part of it. The photo albums with my baby pictures starting at age 2, but none before. The way they always introduced Emily as the miracle child. I was never the daughter. I was the replacement. The next morning, Lucas's voice crackled through the speakerphone. "I've compiled a legal brief, but I think we should do more than just sue." "I agree." "You sure you're ready for what's coming?" "I've been surviving their silence for 34 years. I think I can survive their noise." And I was right. Within 48 hours of our anonymous whistleblower report being made public, the business world began whispering. Then shouting. A blog post I wrote under a pseudonym went viral. A daughter, raised in shadows. A family secret buried so deep it almost killed her. I didn't name them. I didn't have to. People connected the dots themselves. Within a week, every real estate forum and business networking site in New York had threads titled, Ellison Family Secrets? Who is the real heir? Financial angel or family ATM? The headlines started rolling in. Emily panicked first. She posted a long, rambling Instagram story, accusing me of making up fantastical lies and being jealous of her success. She filmed herself crying in her luxury apartment and tagged wellness influencers who didn't respond. Then came the press. An article titled The Heiress Who Wasn't hit the business section of the New York Herald, drawing thousands of comments. Public sympathy poured in. People recognized what I had lived through. Sacrifice without reward. Loyalty without love. Lucas received a letter from Emily's attorney, a cease and desist, accusing me of defamation. Lucas laughed when he read it. She's cornered. Let her swing, I said. We countered. Hard. Lucas attached all records of unauthorized charges under my name, lavish purchases Emily made without consent. Loans she applied for using forged signatures. The financial abuse was documented, cold and clear. The court dismissed her lawsuit within days. The media turned fast. Too fast for the Ellisons to catch their breath. That week, Emily was filmed at a charity gala throwing a glass of champagne at a reporter who asked about the adoption scandal. The footage went viral. Her mascara ran down her cheeks as she screamed, "You don't understand. I am the real daughter." Someone turned it into a TikTok meme with the caption, "Privilege panic attack, level Emily." I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. The truth spoke louder than I ever could. Nicholas, Emily's ex, sent me a message. She's unraveling. Screaming at baristas. Calling old friends in tears. Want me to testify? I replied with one sentence. No need. She's writing her own ending. And I meant it. They weren't just falling. They were crumbling. By the time the court dismissed Emily's defamation suit with prejudice, the headline practically wrote itself. From princess to parasite, the fall of Emily Ellison. But I wasn't watching anymore. Not actively. The media did what it always does, circled, clawed, and clung to whatever spectacle they could squeeze out of the wreckage. But I wasn't here for revenge porn. I was here for closure. And I hadn't had mine yet. Lucas knocked gently on my apartment door just after dusk. I had been discharged from the hospital and was recovering in silence, physically fine, emotionally, reassembling. You okay? He asked, holding a thick folder in one hand and a cup of jasmine tea in the other. As okay as someone who had to learn her entire life was a lie can be. He didn't offer false comfort. That's why I trusted him. I have the final batch of financial filings, he said, placing the folder on the table. And some correspondence from your mother. I stared at the envelope. The handwriting on the front was delicate, unmistakably hers, rigid, expensive penmanship like everything else about her. I didn't open it. I didn't even touch it. Trash it, I said. I know what it'll say. We're a family. We didn't know how to tell you. You're being dramatic. Lucas nodded silently and dropped it into the shredder without hesitation. Instead, we reviewed the documents. The Naples villa was sold over market, thanks to the storm of attention. The Upper East Side penthouse, once their crowning jewel, had also been emptied and was being prepared for auction. Every asset they once boasted as theirs was quietly, thoroughly reclaimed. My accounts, once drained by family obligations, now looked strange to me in their fullness. For the first time, I had money with no guilt attached. Power without strings. Lucas folded his hands. We've recovered just over $4.2 million in total assets, accounts, property, and damages. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. They thought I'd never do it. They thought you'd never stop needing them, Lucas corrected. But you did. He hesitated. There's something else. He pulled out another document, something older. Photocopies. Stamped files. I asked a contact to pull what was left of Sarah's records, your birth mother. My breath hitched. I hadn't dared to ask before. I wasn't sure I was ready. But he handed me the file, and I forced myself to look. Sarah Gibson. Age 28. Single. Elementary school teacher. Died in a car accident. Survived by one daughter, Cammie Gibson, age 2. There was a picture. Faded and cracked. But I saw it, a woman with warm brown eyes holding a baby, arms wrapped around her like a shield. There was love there. In the gaze. In the way her body curled protectively. It was a love I had never received from the people who raised me. I held the photo to my chest for a long time before placing it beside my hospital bracelet, one reminder of survival, one of truth. I want to start something, I said. Something real. Lucas tilted his head. Like what? I want to create a foundation. For early heart screenings. For people like me, people who were ignored. Neglected. Forgotten. He smiled. You already know what to call it, don't you? I nodded. The Sarah Gibson Foundation. And just like that, everything started to make sense. All the pain, the betrayal, the abandonment, it hadn't been for nothing. It had shaped me into something they never expected. A survivor with a cause. The foundation launched quietly. No media blitz. Just a press release and a mission. To provide free genetic and heart screenings to low-income families and individuals with unknown family history. Within a week, we had our first donors. Not corporations. People. Hundreds of small donations, from mothers who lost children to undiagnosed conditions, from daughters who never felt seen, from strangers who said, "You're telling my story, too." Lucas and I worked late into the nights, planning, coordinating, structuring the nonprofit. It felt more real than anything I had ever done as a CFO. More mine. Then came the first big surprise. Nicholas messaged me again. You need to hear this. He attached a voice memo. I hesitated before pressing play. Emily's voice, shrill and cracking with frustration. Do something. You're just going to let her ruin us? She was supposed to support us. I'm the daughter. I'm the one who needed protecting. Then my mother's voice, low and bitter. She's always been ungrateful. She was lucky we took her in. Now she turns on us like this? Let her rot. My father only sighed in the background. Not a single word of remorse. Not a drop of guilt. Just entitlement. Just disgust. I forwarded the audio to Lucas. I don't want revenge, I told him. I want the truth to stand. And it did. Within days, the audio clip leaked. I didn't leak it. But someone did. The internet did what it does best, it reacted. Memes. Headlines. Think pieces. Adopted daughter pays family's bills for years, then they call her ungrateful. Ellison family implodes after ICU betrayal. It was no longer my story. It was our story, the story of every person who ever gave too much, loved too hard, and got silence in return. Emily tried to backtrack, of course. She held a live video crying about how cancel culture was ruining her mental health. But no one bought it. Not anymore. I didn't need to comment. I didn't need to post. Every word I had to say, I had already lived. Lucas and I continued working in the background, growing the foundation, focusing on something bigger than pain. But I wasn't finished healing. Not yet. There was still one last thing to do. "Lucas," I said one morning over coffee in my small San Diego apartment. "I want to change my name." He raised an eyebrow. "To what?" "To who I really am." That day, we filed the paperwork. Cammy Sarah. No more Ellison. No more heir to a house built on silence. Just me. The day I stood before the judge to legally change my name, I didn't wear black like I thought I would. I wore soft blue, the color of peace, of calm tides, of starting over. The courthouse wasn't grand or dramatic. No thunder cracked outside. No violins swelled in the background. Just a signature. A moment. A breath. And a name. Cammy Sarah. I had shed the name of a family who never truly saw me, never truly loved me. It wasn't a rejection. It was a reclamation. After the judge stamped the papers and nodded kindly, I stepped outside and felt something I hadn't felt in years, if ever. Light. Not the sun, not really. It was something inside me. A weight lifted, a boundary sealed. I wasn't running from my past. I was simply no longer available to it. Lucas met me on the courthouse steps, holding a coffee and a manila folder. "You did it." "I didn't even flinch," I said. He smiled. "You wouldn't have." We walked in silence for a bit before he handed me the folder. "This is for you." I opened it. Inside were the final sale documents for the Ellison family's most prized possessions, the heirloom diamond ring my mother swore would only ever be passed down to blood daughters, the antique piano Celeste never learned to play but insisted on keeping, the hand-carved dining table they posed around every holiday as if love lived there. All sold. All gone. All reclaimed. I sold everything. Not to be cruel, but because nothing they owned was ever truly theirs. It was purchased with my labor. My loyalty. My silence. Now, it was fuel. Money that would fund the Sarah Gibson Foundation, which had grown faster than any of us expected. In less than 3 months, we had already sponsored 40 free heart screenings for children in underserved communities. Our goal had been 10. We quadrupled it. But it wasn't just the screenings. It was the emails. The stories. The messages. Dozens. Then hundreds. Then thousands. People wrote to me from all over the world. I paid for my brother's tuition and he stopped talking to me after he graduated. My mom made me feel guilty for earning more than her. I was the family bank, the therapist, the fixer. And when I needed help, they disappeared. It was like I had torn open a wound no one knew they had, or were too ashamed to show. One night, unable to sleep, I opened my laptop and typed the words. "You're allowed to walk away from people who only love you when you're useful." I posted it anonymously on the Foundation's site with a brief story. A woman raised in silence. A family who saw her as an asset. A heart that stopped, and when it did, no one came. It went viral in less than 48 hours. The story was shared on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, even Instagram stories by influencers and therapists. It was picked up by a podcast. Someone even turned it into a spoken-word video with animation. And still, I didn't attach my name. I didn't need the credit. Just the connection. That week, I hosted the first Reclaim Support Circle in San Diego. A small group. 8 people. We sat in a rented yoga studio, no incense, no platitudes. Just space. A middle-aged woman with trembling hands said she hadn't spoken to her son in 5 years. "He only calls me when he needs something. I just miss being called Mom." A young man in his 20s whispered that his mother took out a loan in his name without asking. I didn't even find out until they denied my mortgage. A high school teacher cried when she said, I've raised my nieces for a decade while my sister traveled the world. She calls me bitter when I ask for help. There was no judgment in the room. Just tears. Nods. The aching sound of long-held breath finally released. Afterward, no one rushed to leave. They sat there in silence. Together. The next week, 20 people came. Then 50. Eventually, we had to move to a larger space, then split into chapters. Reclaim was no longer just a support group. It was a movement. A quiet uprising against generational manipulation. Against bloodline blackmail. Against the lie that family means pain must be endured without question. One night, after a Reclaim meeting, Lucas approached me. He wasn't carrying paperwork for once. I got a call today, he said carefully. From? Your father. I paused. The air in the room went still. He said they want to talk. That they're sorry. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I didn't even react. I just said, too late. Lucas gave a small nod. That's what I told him. The silence between us was gentle, not heavy. They're losing everything, Cammy, he said. The country club removed your father from the board. Your mother was uninvited from 3 charity circles. Celeste was cut from a brand deal. They lived on a pedestal they built from my back, I said. Let them fall. They will. I sipped my tea. Good. Later that night, I received a text from an unknown number. You're destroying us. Is that what you want? It had to be Celeste. I didn't reply. Instead, I saved the number under a new name. No longer mine. And then I blocked it. The next morning, I walked barefoot along the beach. The water was cool, the sand damp beneath my toes. For years I had lived in skyscrapers and luxury penthouses, surrounded by glass and concrete. But here, I didn't need walls. I had finally become untouchable, not because I was unreachable, but because I was unavailable to abuse. And that's a different kind of power. The tide came in soft and slow that morning. I stood at the edge of the sea, my feet sunk into the sand, the waves licking at my ankles like they wanted to wash something off of me. And maybe they were. Because when I walked away, I didn't feel clean, I felt new. The Sarah Gibson Foundation had passed a new milestone, 100 free heart screenings across 5 different states. We had enough funding now to expand to mobile clinics. The first van had been wrapped in our signature colors, navy, white, and gold, with Sarah's name proudly displayed across the side. Her name. Not mine. Because she had given me life, even if I hadn't remembered her face until Lucas dug it out of a dusty file. I wore her ring every day now, a small silver band with a sky blue stone in the center. We bought it back quietly from a collector who'd picked it up at a private auction after my mother sold it to pay rent. The same mother who once told me, this ring stays in the bloodline. I guess she forgot whose blood ran through my veins. Lucas handed me the final accounting report a few days later, sitting in my tiny sunlit kitchen as I made tea. They're nearly broke, he said without ceremony. Already? I raised an eyebrow. The real estate fraud exposure didn't help. And the IRS is reviewing your father's filings from the past 5 years. It's not looking good. I stirred the honey into my cup. I won't press charges. Lucas looked up, surprised. They'll destroy themselves, I said calmly. And I won't waste one more breath helping them do it. He nodded slowly, respecting it. Emily tried to file a new suit. Emotional distress. Again. And? Dismissed before it reached a judge. But it made the gossip blogs. She was photographed screaming at a boutique manager for not accepting her return. I let out a quiet laugh. She's finally learning what it means to not be catered to. I didn't reply to the texts from old friends who suddenly wanted to reconnect. I didn't attend the charity event where I was honored as a silent philanthropist. I didn't even check my LinkedIn anymore. I didn't care about board invitations or speaking offers. My world had changed. It was smaller, but more real. I was no longer Cammie Ellison, the CFO who worked herself to the bone to hold up a crumbling dynasty. I was Cammie Sarah, the woman who chose to live without applause. I spent my mornings writing blog posts, anonymous letters, responses to stories from strangers who'd found my foundation online. One woman wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to walk away from a family that guilt me for 20 years. A teacher said, "I used to think something was wrong with me. Now I know I was just surrounded by people who needed me weak." A man in his 60s confessed, "My sister stole from me, blamed me, then asked for help. I always said yes. Last week, I finally said no. I read every message. Every word. And I cried, not because of pain, but because of recognition." These people weren't broken. They were just tired of being everyone's foundation and nobody's priority. So I started something new. A monthly newsletter called No Longer Alone. It wasn't flashy. Just essays, letters, personal stories. Submissions from people like me, the invisible glue of their families who had finally come undone by choice. We launched a podcast soon after. I hosted under a pseudonym. No fame. No identity. Just a voice. A story. A space. Each episode opened the same way. You're not broken. You're breaking free. And that matters more than they'll ever admit. Meanwhile, the Ellisons kept collapsing. My father was forced to resign from the last board he sat on. The silent rumor in real estate circles was that he'd mishandled investor funds. I didn't confirm it. I didn't need to. My mother's socialite calendar dried up completely. A photo of her exiting a budget salon went viral on a fashion blog. Once a queen, now begging for crowns and fluorescent lighting. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel anything at all. And Emily? Her influencer deals vanished. She was dropped from every campaign. No one wanted to touch the scandal. Her followers dwindled. She launched a course called Healing Through Chaos, but the reviews were brutal. One comment read, "You can't teach healing when you've spent your whole life hurting others." I didn't gloat. Because revenge wasn't the point. Reclaiming myself was. One day, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a torn photo, me, at 5 years old, sitting at the edge of a table at one of those family dinners. Celeste, dressed in white lace, sat center, everyone leaning toward her with fake smiles. I was off to the side. Alone. A shadow in a world of polish. Scrawled in black pen across the back were the words, "We always knew you weren't one of us." I showed it to Lucas. He froze. "They're taunting you now?" "No," I said, folding the photo neatly and dropping it into the fireplace. "They're just revealing themselves." That's when I knew the worst was over. Because when your worst fear is abandonment, and then you're abandoned, and you survive it, you become untouchable. I began volunteering with the mobile clinics. Not as a speaker. Not as a figurehead. Just as a person. A woman who sat with scared mothers, confused teenagers, nervous grandfathers. I told them what signs to look for. I told them they mattered. That their hearts deserved to be heard. And in those quiet, sunlit parking lots where we ran our screenings, next to churches and libraries and underfunded schools, I found pieces of myself I didn't know were still missing. One little girl looked up at me after her exam and asked, "Are you a doctor?" "No," I smiled. "Just someone who cares." She grinned and nodded like that was enough. And for the first time in my life, it was. On the morning of my 37th birthday, the waves whispered against the shore like they knew a chapter had closed. I stood on the balcony of my small San Diego apartment, barefoot, wrapped in a linen robe, a cup of tea in hand, watching the Pacific breathe in and out like it had all the time in the world. And for once, so did I. I hadn't thrown a party. No guest list, no catered brunch, no curated photos for social media. Just me, a few friends from Reclaim, and Camila, the first person who hugged me at our original support circle and whispered, ICU. We shared dinner under warm golden string lights strung above a modest backyard. No speeches. No toasts. Just gentle laughter and stories about real life. Dented cars. Nervous first dates. Dreams of writing a book or buying a food truck. Nobody bragged. Nobody compared. Nobody lied. And that, more than any estate or villa, felt like wealth. After dessert, I slipped inside to grab a sweater and noticed a manila envelope had been slid under my door. No address. No signature. No return name. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A notice. The Ellison family formally declared bankruptcy. Celeste had tried to revive her brand, but her last 2 sponsorships pulled out due to reputational risk. My father's assets were frozen in ongoing audits. My mother had reportedly tried to host a private fundraiser and no one showed up. Not even the caterer. Their legacy, the one I had built for them, funded for them, bled for them, was officially gone. Lucas called me just minutes after I opened the letter. I assume you saw the notice, he said. Yes. You sure you don't want to sue them for damages? I looked around at my life, modest, calm, peaceful. I breathed in the scent of orange blossom from the potted plants lining my windowsill. I heard Camila's soft laugh outside. The ocean murmuring in the distance. No, I said. They've already lost what mattered most. And what's that? Lucas asked. Access to me. He didn't argue. Later that night, I sat down with my laptop and wrote the final post I'd ever publish under my anonymous blog. It read, "There comes a point where the apology doesn't matter anymore. Not because you're unforgiving, but because you've finally realized you were never the one who needed to change. Sometimes, family isn't love. Sometimes, it's a survival strategy, one you outgrow when you stop needing to beg for scraps. I don't need revenge. I have peace. I have freedom. I have my heartbeat. That's more than they ever gave me." I hit publish. And I closed the laptop. Not just for the night, but for good. Because my story had been told. Not screamed. Not dramatized. Just told. Quietly, honestly, completely. Weeks later, the Sarah Gibson Foundation celebrated funding its first 100 heart surgeries for children with undiagnosed conditions. We didn't throw a gala. We hosted a picnic. Kids with gauze on their chests chasing balloons, parents crying softly beneath shady trees. Lucas brought a cake. Camila brought a guitar. We brought stories. No one knew who I used to be. Just who I was now. I had kept nothing from the Ellison legacy. Not a chair, not a frame, not a single dish. I returned every gift, every token, every obligation disguised as affection. What I kept were photos of our Reclaim group. Notebooks full of scribbles from survivors finally speaking their truth. A thank you card from a mother in Arizona whose son's heart murmur was caught in time. And one ring. Sarah's ring. I wore it like a compass, not a crown. It didn't scream wealth. It whispered origin. Not the origin they gave me, but the one I chose to rise from. One night, sitting under the stars, Camila asked me gently, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought for a long time. And then I said, "No. I missed the girl I used to be around them. The one who thought love had to be earned." She nodded, understanding. She was strong. She was, I agreed. But she was always walking a tightrope. And now? Now I walk on sand, I smiled. Sometimes unsteady. But always mine. Months passed. And the Ellisons faded from the news. From social media. From relevance. Their names, once polished and paraded, turned into cautionary tales. Don't build your life on someone else's silence. Don't mistake generosity for weakness. Don't forget the one who kept you standing. But I didn't care who remembered them anymore. I only cared about the lives we were saving. The voices we were helping rise. And one day, maybe soon, I'll write again, not a confession, but a guide. A roadmap for the next girl sitting in an ICU bed, texting a family that doesn't show up. So she knows she's not crazy. She's just finally awake. This was my story. But it might be yours, too. And if it is, here's your sign. You're allowed to walk away. Not out of bitterness. But out of self-love. Because sometimes the loudest kind of revenge is building a life so whole, they can't even find a way back into it. Thank you for watching Revenge Echoes, where stories speak louder than revenge. Cammie's story reminds us that not all enemies are strangers, and not all victories require shouting. Sometimes the greatest justice is walking away with your dignity, your name, and your heartbeat intact. If you've ever carried your family while being left behind, share your truth in the comments. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories that give a voice to the voiceless. And remember, your silence was never weakness. It was waiting. Now, speak.